Number 5. The Corona Discount Mall Kidnapping. In November 2004, the police in Corona, California, were contacted by the security team at the Corona Discount Mall. They had a video that was recorded on a surveillance camera that they needed the police to review. Around 6 p.m. on Sunday, November 8, 2004, a young woman in her early 20s, possibly in her teens, is seen walking from the parking lot to the sidewalk that ran alongside the mall. As the woman walks along the sidewalk, she seems to hear a car speeding towards her, so she looks over her left shoulder and sees a black Toyota Solara. When she sees the car, she takes off running. The car eventually comes to a stop and 2 men get out and chase the woman. The men catch up with her off camera, and one of the men throws the woman over his shoulder and they walk back to the car. As the woman's being carried, several witnesses, including a security guard, heard the woman screaming for someone to call the police. Once they get back to the car, the men shove the woman into the trunk and then drive off. The police are unsure if the kidnapping was real or just a hoax. One reason it may be a prank is because no one in the area was reported missing at the time. Another problem is that, as you can probably see for yourself, the quality of the video is terrible and it's impossible to see anything useful like the faces of the possible victim or kidnappers or their license plate. The police strongly suspect that the woman knew the kidnappers because she ran off as soon as she saw their car. The police have no other information on the alleged kidnapping, and to this day, the police aren't sure if it was real or just a disturbing prank. Number 4. Daniel Vella. 40-year-old Daniel Vella of West Ryde, Australia was a talented tattoo artist, and on the night of March 26, 2011, he was working at the Pretty in Ink tattoo parlor. At 9:45 p.m., 2 men calmly walked up the driveway to the rear entrance of the tattoo parlor. One man entered the parlor and walked directly into the main room where he found Vella working on a customer. The man aimed a revolver at Vella, and from point-blank range he fired 1 bullet into his shoulder. The gunman then fired 4 shots indiscriminately into the walls and into the ceiling, and then he walked out of the parlor. An ambulance arrived 5 minutes later, and Vella was rushed to the hospital, but he was pronounced dead on arrival. Vella didn't have any known enemies, and he didn't have any links to criminal activity. In fact, Vella hated motorcycle gangs, which are called bikie gangs in Australia. Specifically, he hated their influence on the tattoo industry. Despite the fact that Vella kept his distance from gangs, the police believe that was a member of a bikie gang that killed him. They think that he was either randomly killed as a gang initiation, or he was killed to intimidate other tattoo businesses. Despite the good quality of the videos, the police weren't able to make out the faces of the 2 men. What is known is that the shooter was wearing a gray G-Star Raw hoodie and pink dishwashing gloves. But beyond that, the police have no idea who the shooter is, and the case is currently cold. Number 3. The Granny Killer. The killer first struck on March 8, 2012 in Kazan, Russia. An 82-year-old woman was found strangled to death with the belt from her rope in her apartment where she lived alone. Over the next 8 months, 9 more elderly women who lived alone were attacked in their apartments in Kazan. They had all been strangled and beaten. Only one of them survived. The killer spent the next year murdering elderly women throughout the vast regions of Urals and Vogels. Between March 2011 and September 2012, the police can confirm that the man killed 19 elderly women, but he is quite possibly responsible for over 30 murders. He also attacked several other victims who survived. All of his victims were between the ages of 75 and 90, and they all lived alone in an apartment. Their apartment buildings were the first on the road, and none of the women lived higher than the 3rd floor. The police think that the killer was using some sort of database to find his victims because all of them shared so many similar qualities, and there are no records of him accidentally targeting a younger woman or a woman who didn't live alone. The survivors of the killer said that the man knocked on their door and told them that he was an electrician or a maintenance man or someone from Social Security. Once he was inside the apartment, he would strangle the women, and if they fought back, he punched them in the face. Sometimes he would steal money, but not all the time. In one case, he left some money lying in plain view on a table. The survivors were also able to give the police a description of the killer. He was described as 25 to 35 years old, about 5'5 to 5'7 with a slim build, and he had strongly pronounced East Asian facial features. In addition to the survivors' descriptions, the police also have a video of him that was captured on CCTV. On September 26, 2012, as his killing spree was coming to an end, a camera captures an elderly woman walking into an apartment building. It then cuts to another camera located inside at the top of the staircase, and right in front of the camera is the killer, who is reading some papers. He sees the woman walking up the stairs, and then suddenly he rushes down, but it turns out that he is only helping the woman. And then the woman goes through the doorway at the top of the staircase. The young man continues to read his papers for a few seconds, and then follows the woman through the door. There was another camera at the top of the staircase, and it appears to be just under the other camera. This one records the killer coming up the stairs about a minute before the elderly woman starts to climb the stairs. The second camera records the killer from another angle, but unfortunately his face isn't clear. Then, in February 2017, several tabloids published this video, and they said it was released by the police in Kazan, which is the city where the murder started. The video from July 2016 shows a young man who matches the description of the killer lurking throughout an apartment building. The article said that the video sparked fears that the strangler may start killing again, but there have been no reports of elderly women being strangled since the video was recorded. Again, it's important to point out that this video was only published by the tabloids, so it may have no connection to the actual murders, and it could just be a prank. But you never know, and this could be actual footage of the man who strangled to death 19 women. Number 2. The Massacre at Sea. In August 2014, a disturbing 10-minute, 26-second long video was uploaded to YouTube. The video was called "Fishing Vessel Fijian Crew Getting Shot Outside Fiji Waters." The person who uploaded the video said that he found it on a cell phone that was left in the back of a taxi in Suva, Fiji, by a fishing boat crewman. The video is shot on the deck of a boat, and the boat is heading towards some wreckage. As the boat nears the wreckage, 3 other large fishing boats are seen in the area, possibly circling the wreckage. Based on the orders coming over the intercom, the men aboard the cameraman's boat start shooting at a group of 5 men in the water who are clinging to pieces of their wrecked ship. Unfortunately for the men, there is nowhere to hide in open water, and all 5 men are picked off one by one. As the men are floating in the water, waiting to die, the crewmen on the cameraman's boat are laughing, and they cheer when the men are shot. Once all 5 men in the water are dead, the men on the boat pose together and take some selfies. After the video was uploaded, the police in Fiji, which is a small island in the South Pacific, just north of New Zealand, started to investigate the video. The problem was that even though they had the actual murders on video, there were still a lot of questions surrounding the shooting. Notably, they don't know when and where the video was shot. The New York Times said that the video was recorded sometime between 2012 and 2013 and is recorded somewhere in the Indian Ocean, but there is no consensus on where in the ocean. Experts said that the languages being spoken on the boat were Mandarin, Cantonese, Thai, and Vietnamese, among others, suggesting the video was recorded in Southeast Asia. Another possibility is that, since the phone that contained the video was found thousands of miles away from Southeast Asia, in Fiji, the murders could have taken place somewhere near Fiji in the South Pacific. The second problem is that the 5 men weren't reported missing from anywhere, and their bodies have never been recovered, so the investigators don't even know the identity of the victims. There are 2 theories about who the men were and why they were killed. The first is that they were Somali pirates who tried to hijack a Taiwanese ship off the coast of Somalia. The hijacking failed when the pirates' boat was destroyed when it was rammed by a larger ship. The second theory is that the 5 men were fellow fishermen, possibly from the East African coast or the Arabian Gulf area, and they were killed over something like a territorial dispute. Only one boat in the video was identified, and it was a Taiwanese tuna longliner named Chun I-217. The boat was in the background of the video, and it may not have been involved in the shooting. When the owner of the boat was asked about the 5 murders, he refused to say anything. Because the police don't know who was killed in the video, and when and where the murders happened, it is very unlikely that anyone will be brought to justice for the massacre. Number 1. Nurin Jazlin. On the evening of August 20th, 2007, 7-year-old Nurin Jazlin went to a local market in the Wang Sa Manju township of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. When she didn't return home, her frantic parents contacted the police. The police interviewed witnesses at the market, and they said that they saw Nurin being forced into a white van. September 11th was Nurin's 8th birthday, and she was still missing. 28 days after she disappeared, a CCTV camera recorded a man on a Modinus Chris motorcycle pulling up in front of a business just outside of Kuala Lumpur. After the man parks, he gets off his bike and removes his helmet. He takes out his phone and talks on it while he walks in and out of range of the camera. After about a minute and a half of pacing, which we sped up, the man puts his helmet back on, grabs a gym bag off his bike, drops it off on the side of the road, gets on his bike, and drives off. Not long afterwards, someone looked in the bag and made a horrifying discovery. Curled up in a fetal position was the nude body of a young girl. The medical examiner determined that the girl had died about 6 hours before she was found. She had been tortured and sexually assaulted before she died. She died from an infection after her rectum burst because she had been violated with a cucumber and an eggplant, which were both still inside her body when she was found. Later that day, Nurin's parents were called to the morgue to see if the girl was their daughter. Perhaps her 28 days of captivity changed her physically, or because her parents were in denial, but they said that the girl wasn't Nurin. Days later, a DNA test proved that the parents were wrong, and the girl was in fact Nurin. Unfortunately, due to the quality of the video, the police were not able to identify the man who dropped off the bag. The police think that the man on the bike is someone they call the Kambung Baru molester. Before Nurin was killed, the man kidnapped 2 other girls, one who was 5 and one who was 6. In both kidnappings, he was riding a motorcycle and he told the girls that he was missing his cat. He told the girls that if they helped him look for it, he would buy them some ice cream. Instead, he kidnapped them. Like Nurin, both girls had been sexually assaulted with an eggplant. Luckily, those 2 girls were released after several hours. The Kambung Baru molester has never been arrested, and the murder of Nurin Jazlin is one of Malaysia's most notorious unsolved crimes. Thanks a lot for watching this week's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Of course, thanks to everyone who already does subscribe. If you're interested, you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. The links are in the information section. But that's all for this week. Thanks again for watching.